So the thing is, I know what it looks like to see your scene fall apart. It's an awful thing to experience, especially because for me, how attached I was to just the first community in general and Melee in general. So I'm gonna go over why that happened, or at least a couple of theories I have in my head about why, and then we're gonna go over exactly ways to prevent it from happening again. So, jumping right into it, got to go over how did it happen. So, there's a couple of reasons why it happened. I'm gonna go over a little bit of a story to kind of preface things. So, the main person who ran tournaments up in Brevard, his name was Lucas. Lucas ran them out of his house, and he ran them for super duper dirt cheap. It was like $2. I'm not even joking. It was $2. He didn't take any like venue fee because it was just at his house, and all the money went straight to the pot. And I'm gonna like write this down as the first point. Just a little bit. It's not the biggest point, but ran tournaments really cheap. You know, it kind of set this standard. It set this standard of something that you will really never see again unless somebody owns a house and can like fit those circumstances. But one, he had left, people tried to go to different places, and then the prices would increase like tenfold because obviously businesses to make money, and that turned off a lot of people. But you could write that one down to being like Lamo broke, but that's something that happened. Additionally, something else is that Brevard County Melee wasn't even just Brevard County. Brevard County Melee was that and Indian River County and a little bit of St. Lucie County. So it encompassed... Oh, there's no way I know how to spell that word. 0% chance. It covered... Well, there we go. It covered a huge area. And those areas kind of didn't like break down into their own sub-regions. It kind of all just fell apart collectively because there wasn't enough people from every single area to make their own area, which is why we all came together. And so once he had left, a lot of players just played Melee with their friends in their house. Nobody really wanted to run tournaments. There were a select few people, and one including me, but yeah, the area was just way too large to sustain itself. Like I said, what ended up happening is that he moved away. He ended up moving away. And the scene was like never really structured in a way for longevity. Now, I could be wrong in my memory of it, but as far as I'm aware, there were 0 written guidelines when he was running tournaments. Not to fault him at all, because the scene was close-knit enough where everybody knew the rules. Everybody was going to tell you if you overstepped stuff, you know? But nothing was officially written down at all. And I would say the final thing was that we couldn't get more players. So yeah, that's the kind of the story of Brevard County Melee. Lucas ends up moving to Canada. Like, people realized that they kind of just went for the house party, and there just so happened to be Melee there. And so once that was gone, people came out and was like, hey, we're gonna run tournaments here. We're gonna run tournaments at this like anime store, this gaming lounge, this college venue. And people just kind of figured that they would rather hang out with their friends at home and play Melee. So that's kind of the story about how Brevard County Melee died. And of course, you know, a little bit of a portion lives on, obviously, because we still have people running tournaments in Brevard, but for Ultimate. And then I run Melee tournaments once a month, so it's not entirely gone. It's just kind of splintered and way smaller than it used to be. Like, yeah. What we need to go over, though, is how to prevent this in the future. And you might see a lot of the points already up there on how it happened. But this first thing I want to go over is the ability to find replacements and be replaceable. This is a super important thing. A big part about BCM was everybody loved Lucas. He's my inspiration, which is what led to eventually all of this. And everybody just enjoyed being around the guy. Honestly, he did actually have some like replacements. He had people that helped. There was Dirtian, who eventually ran pretty successful tournaments, but like 2 of them. He would be there. He would help TO, but you know, you might move on, and you need to some more things need to be set in place for it to kind of exist without him. So you want to build a community in a way where you are not exactly the glue per se. Glue. You can do this by giving players roles or responsibilities. Testing things out. Letting them run tournaments, etc. If you're running it out your house, that's one thing. You can't exactly not exist in your house when they're running a tournament. Just you can't lock the door and be in there and just pretend you're not there. That's kind of weird. But if you're at an actual venue, then that's something you definitely want to start doing. For these people that you want to help replace, you gotta create guides for them. For me, for example, I have kind of an overall process of the beginning, the middle, and the end written out on a Google Doc that I just shipped over, shared with the 3 or 4 or 5 people that help me run tournaments. And I'm not telling them study this like the Bible. Oh, what's up, Ian? It's more like it's there for them to always reflect on, and because it's there, they don't have to reach out to you whenever there's a problem. Or if they don't know what to do, they could look at that and then eventually, slowly start to learn to exist on their own. So that's what I do. I create guides. Of course, put a little trust in people. I'm getting messages. Trust people. So a big thing that I had to learn, if I'm not there, just don't pester these people. There's just an attachment that you feel to it. So you want to make sure things are kind of running the way you envision them to run. But trust people. They're going to do their own thing. You went out of your way to select these people to take your place, essentially. So, let them fail. Let them, go about and doing their things. What else is there? So this leads into the next point, which is understanding that nobody is going to give it their all. This is something I learned recently. I was actually having a conversation with my dad about it, and getting somebody to replace you. Thing is that you're gonna give it your 100%, your all, because this is something you want to do, and this is something you're super excited and I've been running tournaments basically every week for 7 years, give or take. Probably a little bit less, 5, because there was a little era where I was running it once every couple of months. But what's up, Damon? But me, I put my all into it. The thing is, when you will trust somebody else to do something, it's not like their baby, It's not their idea. They're gonna have ideas that they're all in for, and maybe that's why you pick them up. But the whole, encompassing the whole structure of it, people aren't gonna give it their all. And you just have to be okay. With people giving it 50%. But if you have 4 or 5 people giving it 50%, you just kind of have to hold that. But it is what it is, and you can't expect people to kind of take things to your level of seriousness, especially if nobody is getting paid that much money. I definitely celebrate when I walk away with a tournament and I could like give myself $20 for the gas it spent to get there. That's like a huge accomplishment. And when I have my team help me, I'm definitely trying to give them more than anything I take, obviously. But we're not talking about hundreds of dollars a week. We're talking about like $20 a month. Your crew is not going to give it their all. And you have to just accept that that's going to happen. And lastly, for this first point, if you make the community revolve around, oh, you know what? We kind of talked about it earlier, but to hammer it home, the community revolve around you, it's gonna explode when you leave. Let's see what he had to say. But having expectations that people ain't gonna give what you, yeah, is big for sure. Exactly, i.e. BCM. That's exactly that. Exactly that. Exactly that, Damon. So, yeah, this last point about if you make the community revolve on you, it's gonna fall apart when you leave. That's exactly what's gonna happen, because like, if everybody is looking up to you, if you're the big reason why, that all exists, you need to focus and build the community in a way where people are there for each other. And this point, it's not the biggest point, because sometimes I feel like in my head I'm a little biased or I'm swayed, but for me, in my experience, like, Lucas was such a big reason why I was there. It's like, yeah, the moment he left, I was like, you know, like, I don't know, it's like 50 minutes north, man. Like, those tournaments are really, I'm like in Vero Beach. I can't drive. Like, I don't know, man. That's what happened with me and a lot of people. But, you know, if you structure your tournaments in a way, just let people take a step back. Don't try to be this like big focal point guy, and you know they'll be all right. If there's ever a circumstance where you have to leave, it only mattered if it was at Lucas's house. 100%. Like, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what it was like. So, you know, I'm glad to be in a position where I didn't even show up to my own tournaments for like 3 weeks, and they were not the like most successful tournaments, but the monthly certainly went fantastic. There was like one where everybody was out the CEO, so like nobody was going to show up to that. There was another one that was a dedicated just hangout fest, and then there was the monthly. And the monthly did great. There was like 33 people there. We sold like a lot of burgers. It was pretty cool. All right, okay, let's go into the next point. The very next point is creating guidelines that promote longevity. What do I mean by guidelines that promote longevity? Really, really what I mean is make rules, just in general. So communities, they absolutely need rules. For sure, 2,000,000% need rules. You can't really have a healthy community if it's some lawless land. So, side note, once upon a time, I tried to create a Facebook page called IRC Smash. I didn't realize I awakened a civil war, but when I made the page, IRC players started, I'm not joking, started posting pictures of burning dead bodies, spamming it in that group chat. I did not know anything about what I had stirred up. I just wanted to make an IRC page because in that time, I was thinking about growing that region specifically. Like, I didn't intuitively understand like these points I wrote out earlier about it was just too big of a region. I just knew I wanted to run tournaments, and that's what I did. Long story short, they posted pictures of burning bodies, and I awakened some like civil war, and I had to go into a chat with them at like 3 o'clock in the morning and just try to figure out what the heck happened. But pardon me, but like that's not okay. Like, in what reality is that what human beings in a community should ever do, you know? Like, but I was just so taken back. There was no way I just swept it all under the rug. I deleted it. I was like, I don't know. You guys do you. I'll just make it Vero Beach Smash, I guess. And actually, yeah, that it was Vero Beach Smash for years. But the thing about not having rules is that people are gonna I just got like the door open really quick. Also, what's up, David? Like, without having rules, people are going to act in that way, and people are going to turn off other people from joining, and that's a huge thing. Like, nowadays, I don't want to speak on them poorly, but you guys know some of those players and how uninteractable they were. And like, everybody, and people who know about the Mars Fool story, he's not one of them for sure. He was one of the people that was sick and tired of it. If you know the Mars Fool story, you know the Mars Fool story. But I don't want to mention these players because I'm sure they're great nowadays, and you know, we were all like kids there, but meeting certain players might make or break a community because they're allowed to act, especially if they're allowed to act in certain ways. That's just not acceptable human behavior, like posting pictures of burning dead bodies. This YouTube video is gonna get shot down in flames, but it's all right. Let's continue. You know, a last point to kind of like put this one away. You know, set the standard yourself. People will follow. This point looks a lot like it counters this point, right? But the way, because, you know, like if you set standards, people are going to look up to you for stuff and then emulate you. But the reason why this doesn't exactly counter that previous point I made is because eventually you start stepping away as those people that followed in your footsteps step up. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, people? Does that make sense? I don't want to sound like I'm contradictory in my own video, like one point from the other. So I'm trying to explain it in a way. People will follow in your footsteps. That's all right. They're going to eventually take over in like roles of responsibility. That's where you need to go. Makes sense? Thank you, Fish. So I don't have too many other points after this. So I'm going to go over these last two really quick ones. And then maybe if you guys want to talk, ask questions, you guys ask a couple of questions. This video is going to be a little bit shorter, and this live stream is going to be super short too. So let's just get into this last, or second to last. But you'll see the last point is kind of a meme. Be open-minded. And be observant. What's up, Magic? All right. What I mean by this, and it kind of bleeds into the last point, all these points like bleed together, but like being observant about things that are not okay, like in that last crazy story, like you have to identify that and make sure stuff like that never happens again. And not on that big of a scale, but you know, sometimes people do things, people say things, and you have to kind of stop that. It goes into the point of like people getting turned off from joining the community and setting up guidelines. So as long as you're kind of like keeping an eye on things and making sure certain things don't slide, like it's pretty important. I didn't even write down that point, so we're just gonna forget that even happened, right? But the next thing, the open-mindedness, leads into this final point that like you might kill your own scene, and so you have to make sure you don't accidentally kill your own scene. So I'll say straight up, like there's a 99% chance I'm the reason why Vero Beach Smash or Melee is dead. Why VB Melee died, quote unquote. And so why do I feel that way? One, I just didn't consider like my friends' feelings when we all got together and played Melee. I'm not like being some heartless guy, but you know, I was the only competitive player. Everybody else showed up and like we played competitive rule sets, but they were definitely more casual. They didn't practice that often. They were playing like Josie played Link, the Chris played Ganondorf. Like we're not trying here, except for me, and I'm trying to get better. And I'm just like minimum talking. Whenever I'm playing, I'm trying as hard as I can, and I'm like rolling people out. And I'm also like forcing advice on the people that might not even want it. And I wasn't picking up on those cues where they're like, hey, we're just here to have some fun. like slowly down the line I did. So I started, like, I made this one meme about don't get triple four stocked by Joe and Doc Dittos, where I would try and play Dr. Mario. I'm still trying my heart out, so I don't understand the concept fully. But like, I'm going Dr. Mario and I'm trying to make it fun. But yeah, I mean, I think I killed the region or the scene, and I'm really glad that like Ultimate kind of swept in and took its place, and that I could pull players from Brevard to go to my tournaments. But like, when something goes wrong, you kind of have to like, man, what's a really good way of putting this? Implement other people's advice. Like, you gotta involve the community in the changes. But with the story about like VB Melee, there was no communication about how I was doing something wrong, right? Nobody like went out of their way and said, "Hey Joe, let's just like tone it down a bit," you know? Maybe somebody brought up something and I didn't pay attention. But if it's non-verbal, you have to pick up on those. Try to be open-minded and try to pick up, or be observant and pick up on those cues and adapt to it. Like, I was too steadfast on trying to be the best player I could possibly be to notice that like the whole thing around me was exploding, you know? Like, nah bro, that's cringe, as big as, yeah. Yep. That's a good point to the last one. Like, blowing up people that do cringe stuff, and you know, just like be truthful to people too. But you know, if you pick up on this, kind of like talk about it. Do you know what's a really great example? It's not really the biggest example of it, but last night or 2 nights ago, I was playing Melee, and at the end of the set, I was like super heated because I lost my friend's Mewtwo, and I just like straight complained about Mewtwo for like 20 minutes and how Falco's the world's hardest character. And thankfully, Gaster was able to show me like what Falco's supposed to do, and it kind of leveled me out again. But I was like ruining the vibe, you know, like, because I was just heated. And I ended up making a post about it and being like, oh, you know what, you know, when you guys helped me out, it helped me. Now I know better and stuff like that. But you know, just include the point about it is like, you want to include the community, stuff like that, because it makes people feel involved. Or if things like outside of your control happen, like, oh man, I have so many stories that I want to tell, like the GXL is racist story that ended up like being a complete meme. But but you know, get people, when things go wrong that's outside of like your direct control, get people involved in solving issues and see what they say, and you know, take their advice. And it's a crazy story. You know, take their advice, genuinely listen to people. I'm not saying like get people involved just for the sake of it, just because you need to do this in order for your community to grow. Just like do it, be genuine about it, because you're not gonna be this end-all be-all, I'm correct all the time guy. When I was creating the community guidelines for Vero Beat Smash, there was a section about clothing and what's not okay to wear. So there was obviously like to get those I don't know how to pronounce that word. Get those anime shirts out of here that are clearly not okay. Get them out of here. But when it came to like gender specific stuff, it's probably not my place to like determine what the women wear. You know, that'd be like out of pocket. That'd be crazy. And so I reached out to, well, one, my sister, and see what she thought. 2, my girlfriend, and thought, or you know, try to get what she thought about it. And 3, Noelle, and what she thought about it. And I got them together, and I'm like, hey, what's okay, what's not okay? And they told me some like really good golden rule stuff that I didn't know about, like stuff, you know, like skirts or whatever. And so perfect, you know, write that down. I'm obviously never going to be the authority on what women should wear. That's ridiculous. So, you know, I involved them in that process. That was a genuine example of how to kind of go about doing that. And when people feel kind of beta, bro, yeah, facts. When people are genuinely a part of the community, they stay in it longer and they help grow it. So it's just all like self-sustaining behavior. And I've rambled on this point for far too long. So it's time to move on to the true final part, which is going to be very quick. Get new players. People will grow old and move out of really dumb, dusty towns like Vero Beach. Nobody wants to be here anymore. So you have to just advertise. There it is. That's the advice. Get new players. Advertise. Depending on what community you run, there should probably be a goal where you kind of send people off. Like, people should probably grow out of playing Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, you know? Like, there's nothing wrong with being a dedicated Ultimate or fighting game player, but like, if somebody grows up and they're like 47 years old and they're still like, yeah, I'm ranked number 3 in my local town of Vero Beach, yeah, you kind of want to see people move on. But if that guy's like 47, he's like a trillionaire because he has an actual life, you know, but like, I don't know. This is something that's not too fleshed out yet. As you could tell, I'm super rambling about it because like nobody in the scene is that old. I'm 24, so like, you know, it's not that big of a deal. But sometimes people move away. You want to see people go to college and like pursue actual real careers. You don't want them stay within the community the whole entire time. Like, you kind of want to see people grow and explore. So you have to get new players and advertise. And there it is. That's the last part. Oh, man, I can't talk for prolonged periods of time. I still have this really bad cough from COVID. I tested negative, so I'm good on that, but it's like this cough is really, really annoying. So, you know, there's that. But I gotta wrap up the YouTube video portion of this. If you made it this far, leave some comments. But if you like the video, and subscribe to the channel.